While the travel frenzy within China is intensifying in the countdown to the Lunar New Year. Millions are crisscrossing the country in the rush to return to their hometowns in the next 5 days. In Beijing, passengers have been flocking to the main railway station for days. In some cities, temporary night trains have been added to meet added demand, according to local media. More than 2 billion trips across China are expected in the weeks around the holidays. Many people welcome the freedom to travel without restrictions for the first time in 3 years and say they are not worried about the potential surge in COVID-19 cases.
特别开心的因为疫情嘛，疫情现在封了3年了嘛，时间也特别久，这终于解封了，现在回家是真的方便很多了。对，第一个是方便，第二个是不用再是什么去风控什么之类的。
As a precaution, though, authorities have sent thousands of oximeters to village clinics. They will also be provided with fever drugs, oxygen supplies, and an oxygen machine. They also promised an increase in funding for the prevention and control of the virus. Over the weekend, Chinese health authorities reported that nearly 60,000 people with COVID-19 had died in just over a month. All these numbers only refer to deaths recorded at medical facilities. Experts from the World Health Organization say the figure could be a small fraction of the actual toll. And for more, CNA's Olivia Xiong joins us live from Beijing. Olivia, there has been some doubt cast on this new data as to the number that have died in China from COVID-19.
That's right. Even though the WHO has welcomed this latest figures that have been released by China, saying that this gives it a better understanding of the situation of the ground. On the ground, there has still been some skepticism over these figures. We do have to note that prior to this announcement over the weekend, China had only reported 37 deaths in its tally, death toll last month, and China had been under intense scrutiny and criticism over what experts had described as a rather narrow definition of COVID-19 deaths, as China had only included fatalities, people who had died of pneumonia and respiratory failure as a COVID death, and not those who had died from underlying diseases. But this latest data release had changed that, and we saw that the majority of the deaths that had been counted were because of underlying diseases. But even as the WHO has welcomed this latest data release, there is still skepticism, as you mentioned there, because these are deaths that have only been accounted for in the hospitals and medical institutions. And as we know, the virus has been spreading in this country with a population of 1.4 billion people, largely unchecked. And we have heard of hospitals being overwhelmed. And the figure does not include people who may have died at home or in rural areas. So also, experts are saying that compared to other countries that have opened up, that China's death rate is relatively lower as well. And one expert I spoke to said that it will be difficult to ascertain the true impact of China's rollback of its zero-COVID policy as it continues, like other countries, to make adjustments to its data. But China, on its part, continues to maintain that it has been providing information to the WHO since the start of the pandemic, even though we had seen officials staunchly defend how it was classifying COVID-19 deaths in the past few weeks. One official even saying that there was no need to pay so much attention to these death figures, and instead that the attention should be focused on treatment instead. But now authorities are saying that it has taken some time for them to generate such data. One expert quoted in the Communist Party-linked Global Times saying that it had been difficult to ascertain the number of deaths given the peak in the pandemic.
Oh, thanks for that. Olivia Xiong reporting live just there from Beijing.